Yeah, it's working.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, then. We can
Very
start. I think
happy.
Fiona's going to jump on. I don't know if she can stay too long, but I think this is...
Hi, everyone watching this. My name is Andrea. Follow me on Instagram.
Why do you got to be like that?
I'm kidding. If you want to, Andrea.Neiman.
Oh, my God.
Personal shout out to everyone who can't make it. Follow me on Instagram. Oh, God.
Man.
So I just wanted to we can do a little intro since Emma hasn't been here in a while, but just like name and then what college you go to and what your major is. And then I've asked Sophie this before, we've talked about this with her boyfriend, but what kind of bird would you be if you could be any type of
Ooh.
What kind of what?
bird?
What did I say to this, Caroline?
I think we both agreed with what Wes said.
Okay.
So I guess I can go first since I already have my answer. And I totally agree with Wes on this. But so Caroline, Holy Cross, poli-sci major. You guys all know us. And then I'd have to say a duck because Wes made very good points. He went on and on about the ducks. And they can fly, they can swim, and they're cute. So
They can do it all.
they can do it all.
Very multi-talented.
Yeah.
Should I go?
Yeah, sure.
I don't really know what I'm gonna say about the bird, but I'll figure it out. I'm Emma. I also go to Holy Cross. I'm a rising junior. I'm a psychology and German double major. And the bird, I'm probably, okay. I have 3 birds that I like, so I'm gonna choose between an eagle, a robin, or a dove. And I don't think I'm calm enough to be a dove, so I'd probably go with a robin just because it's a nice balance. Like I don't think I'm feisty enough to be an eagle, and robins are just like, they're chill. They kind of hang out in your backyard and they're always with a couple of other birds, so robin is my answer.
Good one.
I'm also sunburned right now, so the connection is
red. Yeah.
Yes.
That's funny. Okay, I guess I can go. Well, I don't know. I agree with the duck. That's pretty good. Oh, I'm Sophie. I go to Gonzaga, and I'm gonna be a junior, and go Zags. And I'm a sociology and criminology major. So.
Ooh.
But okay, the duck is good, but I feel like I gotta say something different. I feel like a flamingo would just be pretty fun, honestly.
Flamingo.
I agree with that. I think it would be pretty fun.
It's pink, and I think it'd be cool to, like, how you just they stand on like one leg when they sleep. Like that'd be like kind of cool because like you don't learn how to do it, you just can naturally do it.
And they eat a lot of shrimp, right? Or is that just a myth?
Shrimp.
They do.
I do like shrimp
and
too.
I like shrimp.
That's where they get their pink coloring.
I like it.
Fiona, we're going around, we're saying name, college, major, and what kind of bird would you be?
What kind of bird would I be?
Yeah, we'll let Andrew go while you think of yours.
Okay.
Oh, she's bite. Wow.
I'll go.
Okay.
Sorry. My name is Andrea. Andrea.Neiman on Instagram. That was really funny. That's just a spunk personality I am. Being marketing with a concentration in sales and supply chain. I will also be a junior. Honestly, I thought about this.
Oh.
Like Sophie. My dog's gonna go crazy, just ignore him. Being a flamingo, because I do particularly enjoy the color pink. So because I am very much so not a girly girl, and I feel like pink is just a funny color that has nothing to do with why I'm not picking a flamingo. But that was one of my options because I like what Sophie hate shrimp, so I'm not picking a flamingo. But what I do pick is a penguin. If anyone else has thought of this, even though they can't fly, they're amazing. And also, a polar bear is my favorite animal. And so I want to see a polar bear in real life. So the connection of being a penguin, I could see polar bears. Boom.
Also, have you seen Surf's Up? They can surf.
Exactly. I'm going to be a surfing penguin. Anyways,
God, we set the bar really high. Penguin and flamingo were mentioned.
I'm going to be a robin.
I'm going to be a duck.
Duck! Damn it, Caroline! Good
You can also
one.
be a duck.
I mean, I feel like in the similar family as goose. However, geese scare the fuck out of me.
They're dangerous. They're feisty.
I don't fuck with geese at all. They're scary birds. Like a toucan?
Those are pretty.
Yep. All right. Yeah, I'm feeling. Yeah, toucan.
That's a good one. I like the vibe.
The ostriches are mean too, so probably not one of those.
But they're fast.
Are they?
Yeah, I think so.
It's like an animal that shouldn't be fast. It's a
I
little
could
too-
be totally
Super
wrong. on
fast.
that.
They're like faster than like some of the fastest animals.
Really.
Like a horse.
That's like when you see an owl's legs, like it's factual that they're there. It just shouldn't be two things that go together.
I love sending those gifs where the owl like starts running at the camera. Those are great.
I love those. It used to have the power to make me laugh no matter how bad of a day. The people in the dinosaur suits
Oh yeah,
running, but like running, they have to be running.
they have to be.
But those things running, I think, is like just the very.
Every Halloween, there are a couple people who go with the dinosaur suits.
It's a
I love
classic.
them.
It's a classic. No, I love it too.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll jump right into it because I know Fiona has to leave early and so does Sophie. But I wanted to start a little differently this week than other weeks. Like last week was prayer, the topic was, and so at the end, the challenge for that week was to try out a different form of prayer. And so my challenge was I turned to music and like worship music to try out different ways of praying. And so that's how I came across that. I've heard the song before that I sent out in the group message to everyone. You Say by
That's a good song.
Lauren Daigle. It's such a good song. And so I was listening to it today and I was like, you know what, that's gonna be this week's song. And when I first heard it, I didn't realize it was a worship song because I was like, oh, it's popular, like people have heard of it. Like usually people haven't heard of a lot of worship songs. And so I automatically assumed it wasn't. But then I looked into the lyrics a little bit more, and so I wanted to know her reasoning behind it. So I found an interview of her on the reasoning behind the song. And so I wanted to share that with you. If you guys want to turn off your mics.
I love Lauren Daigle.
She's so good.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. It was the day after my very first Dove Awards, and I remember being completely overwhelmed. I walked into the studio, and Paul and Jason, my producers, were in there, and they're like, all right, what's going on in your world? How's it been? It was the first time we had written since How Can It Be? I just remember feeling like so much had happened the night before. How do I come back down to normal? How do I come back down to reality? And started realizing these patterns of really high highs and then, okay, now there's a low. Really high high, now there's a low. And involving expectation in that space can just leave you kind of questioning your identity. Where do I fit in? Where is my security? Where's my footing? You say I love when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I ain't falling short. And when I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. So when writing You Say, I just remember feeling for the first time pretty conflicted. It was definitely the first moment in just being an artist that I was like, okay, where is all of this going exactly? And I know that we've all faced moments in life where we can feel a crossroads happen, where we can see the past and also see the future and realize how we are supposed to exist in the present. And it was one of those moments where I could see where things were going, and I knew exactly where I came from, and I needed those worlds to still be married. And thus brought up the issue of just identity and trying to figure out how to exist when I feel like so many things were pulling me in so many different directions. With that, I think a lot of times we build these complexes about, based on insecurity, based on fear, based on rejection, and just lies that we have to constantly overcome. And so this song for me was just a reminder of identity. It was a reminder that no, when I'm weak, he's strong. So how do I change that and bring that into my everyday life? When I feel inadequate, how is it that there's always these moments where I feel like God just steps in and supersedes my inadequacies? This entire song was so that every single night I would get up on stage and remind myself, no, this is the truth. This is the truth. This is the truth. Don't get buried in confusion. Don't get buried in like waywardness. Just remember to steady the course. Steady the course. So that's the story behind it. You say I'm strong when I think I am weak.
Such a good song. And I think it has a really important message behind it. Oh, and by the way, Fiona's Wi-Fi cut out because she had a thunderstorm. So she texted me and she's like, sorry, I jumped out. But anyways, some of the lyrics that really stood out to me in this song, and then I liked what she had to say about the song, was the only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. And that stood out to me a lot because I oftentimes catch myself caring what other people think of me. And I think we all sort of struggle with that. And it's important to just like play the song in your head and just remind yourself that it's only really important what God thinks of you, because at the end of the day, he's the one going to be caring for us. And then another lyric, I picked out 3 of my favorite lyrics. And so the other one was, you say I am strong when I think I am weak. And I think that we always think that we are like weak in different situations, but he always thinks and says that we're strong. We just need to believe him. And then the last one that I'm going to connect to like the main picture of what I got from this song was, in you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. And due to quarantine, I've had like an identity crisis, like cliche as it is. I feel like everyone's sort of had that different, like set a time to themselves to really figure out who we are, what our purpose is. Like I know it, like one of the other weeks in the beginning, we like, the challenge was why, to write why somewhere. And I think that this song like really like brings that out. It's like, why are we doing what we're doing? Who am I doing this for? So I wanted to like pose the question to you guys, like, did this song make you feel anything? Have you thought about your identity in terms of God? So I just want to pose the question to you guys.
I love this song. It's actually very ironic because this week I listened to Sadie Robertson's podcast and she interviewed, or it was like last week, I guess, but I listened to it this week. But she interviewed like Lauren Daigle, and it was talking about why she wrote the song. So I guess I like kind of already knew that. But it was interesting too because I didn't know a lot. Like I've listened to her a ton, but I didn't know like her story very much until I heard that. And then also she talked about how when she was like younger, she was really sick and was like bedridden. Like she couldn't go to school for like 2 years in high school.
Oh no.
And I was like, that's insane. But yeah, so then she like talked about how like that's kind of when she was like, okay, I like want to be a singer because like music got her through it and stuff. But anyways, that's a side note. But I listened to that song like so much at school, I feel like because I don't know when I first heard it, but they play it at like the worship group that I go to at school all the time, and like I basically always bawl when I hear it because like it's so good. But it like, I don't know, I feel like it impacts everyone like on a personal level, but you can like, it hits everyone differently, but it's like very personal to everybody, I feel like. But I would say at school it was really helpful just because like, I don't know, when you're like, especially when I was a freshman, I was like, it's like you're surrounded by so many people, but you like don't know them. And so you feel kind of alone. And so I feel like that song like really helps. And it's just like, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, like God is like, gives you strength and like, I don't know, is with you like through it all. So, but I love her. Also, I really like the song Rescue. Yeah, it's called I Will Rescue You.
Oh, I love that song.
I'm ready.
Yeah, that was really good. Also all her songs are good, but yeah. Anyways, that was kind of a side note, but just love the song. That's all I have to say.
I feel like this is the type of song that every time you listen to it, you find something new in the song. And I love when songs are like that just because they don't get old fast, which is so nice. Like, I don't know when the song came out, but I hadn't listened to it in forever. And listening to it like 20 minutes ago for the first time in a while just made me like hear so many different things. And I can kind of relate. I feel like at the time, like the stage we are in our lives, it's different for everyone, but it's still like you're trying to figure out who you are. You're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, your interests, and like you kind of stop doing things for your resume and start doing things for your life resume in a sense. And I don't know, I'm the type of person I'm an overthinker. I like to like think about my social interactions of the day and like, oh, what do you like? I constantly revert to like, what do I think that they thought of me, or like, damn, like why did I say that? And I just like think about it and question it, and it just brings me back. Like listening to the song brings me back to like, why does it even matter what they think of me? All that matters is what I think of myself. And I don't know, it always just comes back to that. And it's so hard when you're just in that like tornado of thoughts to like just for like it's a waste of time almost to like rack your brain about all of these unnecessary like conflicting thoughts in your mind, because no one really knows what anyone else thinks. You just know what you think, and you just have to, and I mean, easier said than done. I still struggle with this all the time, but just come to the like reassurance that it's you and you're just living your own life, and you need to accept that and accept who you think that you are. So I mean, hearing a song like this is always like reassuring in those senses, in like that category, I guess.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Jess and I whip out this song in our room all the time. I'll just be like looking in the mirror and I'll be like, oh, I feel like gross or whatever. And she'll be like, okay, we're whipping out the song. Like, it like, cause it just like gets you jazzed, and it like reminds
It's
you
motivating.
of what's important. Yeah. It totally reminds you of what's important, because I get in my head about like boys, school, all that stuff. And I like forget about God, and I really need to like center myself again. And sometimes that's hard when you're just sitting and like thinking to yourself, because then your mind wanders. But if you listen to a song, and also this is such a good hype song, like
Yeah, this is the song that's like walking from your dorm to your class or walking around campus,
yeah,
and like a little bit of a like a vibe, but like a push.
Yeah, it's just a little reminder. So Andrew, did you want to say anything about it, or we can move on?
Yes, sorry, my family is eating dinner and they came down and wanted to know if I wanted to join. So that's why I got distracted. But just going off of what Emma said, like the identity thing, and Carol, you said this too, just like I care and think, or at least I used to, so much about what other people think. Like how I dressed, what I said, what I looked like. And I had a really mean friend my freshman year who was always constantly criticizing me. Sophie and Caroline, you know what I'm talking about? Who was constantly criticizing me, and then I ended up living with her this next year. But beside the point, but she was someone who always criticized me and made me like question how I looked and how I talked, and like things that I can't change. I mean, sure, I could get plastic surgery, but that's stupid and a waste of money, in my opinion. But anyways, like I can't change the way that I look or the way that I am. Like I love who I am, and I think I would listen to this song, and it's like every time you feel something, like you feel a temptation, like I think, what's the line? You say I'm strong when I think I'm weak. Like when you have a temptation and you're weak and you're falling for that, like you know that like the Lord is the one who's going to give you the strength to get out of that temptation. Or there's like literally every line is basically almost anything that you can think of, any situation you could apply to different things in life. And so I love this song just because of the versatility, because anything that you're struggling through in life, it's like, yeah, you might think this way or like go down this path instead of this one. And like that happens to all of us. But here's a line that tells you about like God's mercy, and he's great to you, and he's going to forgive you and pick you right back up and like take you to a different place. Like that's just what I love about this song, is anything that you're going through, it's like, boom, there's a line that like you can immediately connect to that in your life. So anyways.
Yeah, exactly. You hit it right on the head. I think that it's also, I've just been listening to it a lot because I've just been in my head a lot and I just need to get out of my head. And I know it's tough to do, but it's also just like a great song to connect you to God, take that time. Yeah, normally I don't start the meetings off with this song, but I might start doing that because I sort of like looking into songs. If you guys are interested in that, I can start doing that. Because I always like to know the meanings. I always listen and I know all the lyrics, but I don't really know the behind the story. That doesn't really have to do with our main topic. I sent out in the group that tonight's topic is planting seeds. So the funny story is that I told at like dinner before every Thursday night, they ask, what's the topic? And so I go, oh, planting seeds. And my dad goes, oh, so is it about sex? And I go, no.
Oh my God.
My mom goes, oh, it's about like the story of the farmer planting the seeds. And I go, yes, thank you. I'm not crazy. Like, he's like, I guarantee you all the people that are coming tonight are going to think that it's about sex. I'm like, I guarantee you they're not.
That's not what I thought.
That's so funny.
Yep. So that's my dad for you. He's getting into the whole like me leading a Bible study God thing. Like he asks me questions now.
I love it. I love it.
We'll get into that, but talking to people that don't believe. And that is an ongoing conversation we always talk about in here. But so like I said, we're talking about the story of the farmer. It's in Luke chapter 8. And you guys have probably heard it before, but it's important to recognize that Jesus always talks, like he loves to talk in parables. And for me, that makes reading like the Bible easier in a sense, because it sort of lays it out in a way that I understand. And so in this, he says that he talks about a farmer who's planting seeds in his garden. And so I'm going to go through each of like the different ways in which like a seed can grow and not grow. And we as Christians, like the whole story, the emphasis is like we as Christians exist purely to throw out that seed, which is faith and believing in God, and go into the world and share the gospel. And I noticed when I talked about this like earlier on in the summer, but when I went church shopping, I call that, when we left the Catholic Church, one common thread I saw throughout the churches, like they're all very different. They take different approaches to everything. But one thing they had in common was to spread the word of God. That's what they want to do. They want to have a sense of community. They want to spread the word. They want to share their love for God. So I thought this story was perfect in a sense that we all share this goal, no matter like what we believe. We want to share it. And this is a perfect platform to do that. Back to the story. So the seed can be like perfectly good and everything it needs to be, but it's all about the soil in which it's planted in. And so this story goes into the different ways that the seed can be like thrown away or not grow properly. And so we throw the seed a lot, but in the scripture it says about 1/4 of those seeds grow. So there are 4 different instances. So I'm going to dive into those. So some seeds are stolen. In Luke chapter 8, verse 5, it says, "A farmer went out to plant his seed. As he scattered it across his field, some seed fell on the footpath, where it was stepped on, and the birds ate it." This later connects to Luke chapter 8, verse 12. And these seeds represent those who hear the message, only to have the devil come and take it away from their hearts and prevent them from believing and being saved. So what this one stood out to me a lot because we oftentimes like this reminds me of my younger self when I was like listening to scripture, learning about it. It went one ear out the other, and I think that we oftentimes just listen to it and don't let it like sink in, and then like it says, the devil comes and takes it away, and that prevents us from getting closer to God. And I think that we don't really have like the devil figure in our lives. I don't like see a guy with red horns, and he comes in different shapes and sizes. And I think a big one is social media for us. It like one comment leads to another, and like seeking out, like looking for likes and followers. And this makes it difficult for the seed to be planted. Even if the seed is good and healthy, it can be hard to get past that hardened heart and to get past the temptations and the devil getting involved. So the next one is that some seeds dry up. This is in verse 6. Other seed fell among rocks. It began to grow, but the plant soon wilted and died for lack of moisture, which then connects to verse 13, in that the seeds represent those who hear the message and receive it with joy. But since they don't have deep roots, they believe for a while, then they fall away when they face temptation. I think that we can go into learning about God, wanting to know more about him with all the right intentions and like be so inspired to get to know God. And like I've been in that place in the past where I've been like gung-ho about God for a week and then I forget to read the Bible. I like go through like phases and I'm learning to get past that. I obviously still like struggle with that. But I think that it's really important to have those deep roots and to connect back all the time. Just like have like mental check-ins with yourself and make sure you're not losing those deep roots. What I immediately thought of like New Year's resolutions in a sense that people like are like, I'm going to lose 15 pounds. Like I'm going to do this. And then they do it for a month. And then the next month they're chowing down on God knows what. And we've all been there. And like, I know I've given up on my New Year's resolutions. We've all been there. And some people have New Year's resolutions to get closer to God. And I think that they go into that with the right intentions and they're like all like inspired. And like it says, they receive it with joy. I think that it's so important for us to put those distractions aside, those temptations, those things that make us give up on that feeling of joy. So I think it's important to just like keep rekindling that joy and have those deep roots because like I said, it'll just go away if you don't. And you need to like take responsibility for your own growth with God. You can't blame your relationship on God or lack thereof on external forces. We have to water, like to go along with the soil analogy, we're going to be doing a lot of that. We have to water it. We have to cultivate it. We have to do all this stuff to take care of it. And to relate it to real life is we need to read scripture, communicate with God daily, pray. And like, I know some people prefer meditation when they're praying. And so like, those are just different ways to take care of like the soil in our hearts. Let's say that like, that's where God is. He's in our hearts. And that's where our soil is. That's where the seed needs to be planted. And we need to keep working on that soil. It's just like a garden. If you just let it dry up, what good is that? So the next one is some seeds get pushed out. This is verse 7. Other seed fell among thorns that grew up with it and choked out the tender plants, which connects to the seeds that represent those who hear the message, but all too quickly the message is crowded out by the cares and riches and pleasures of this life, and they never grow into maturity. So it's talking about the weeds and the thorns in the garden that push and make the plants not grow correctly. And those are all different factors in our lives that we need to push away and not let them get to us, like whether that be social media, like technology, other temptations in your life, because those are just going to make your seed not be able to grow. And I think that one is just mainly about like, you can get distracted by having like this life full of like money and wealth and be like, that's what I want. But that is a weed in your life. Weeds grow faster than plants, if you've noticed that. So it's easy for the weeds to grow and to get in your way. It's also like easier to like be a bully than to like stand up to a bully and stuff like that. And I think it all comes hand in hand with like lust, greed, anger, like revenge, all that stuff. Those are all weeds. We need to get rid of them, whether that be like pulling them out of your garden. I don't know. My dad always complains about weeds in our yard. And they are worth complaining about because we shouldn't have them in our lives. And then the last one, this is the most important one because like I said, 1/4 of the seeds grow. This is that 1/4. That's the 1/4 we need. Some seeds multiply. Verse 8, still other seed fell on fertile soil. This seed grew and produced a crop that was 100 times as much as had been planted. This connects to verse 15. The seeds represent honest, good-hearted people who hear God's word, cling to it, and patiently produce a huge harvest. One seed can multiply. That shows that one good seed can take over the world, basically. we just like, that's what I love about having this like small group of like discussions with people, is that we go on. This conversation does not end here. I know all of you go and you talk to your parents about this, you talk to your friends about this. If we're that one good seed, if that seed is growing in our hearts, once it's flourishing, once we have that developed that good soil, we can go on to teach other people about that. And I think that this parable does such a good job of showing the strength in that. And that they like, the key thing is that it landed on fertile soil. It's all about the soil. And I want you to ask yourselves, like, who prepares the soil in your life? Am I doing a good job with the soil in my heart? And then we also need to take a moment to pray for those that don't have that in their hearts. And you guys all know, like, my dad doesn't believe in it, so I pray for him all the time, and he's getting there. Like, you can't just, I always think of it as like, you can't just throw it in their face and expect them to, like, you need to like develop that soil for them to fully accept it. Because I like don't like those people that just like shove it down your throats and just like expect, like we've talked about this before, that just expect people to be like, oh, I believe in God now because you said I should. You need to develop that relationship with that person. And I almost think of it like when I used to coach like little kids, like any sport. If they're like, oh, I passed it to my partner, but they didn't catch it. Well, I always ask them, was your partner looking? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, you first need to get their attention and then throw the ball. Because I think of it in the same way as religion. Like, if they're not looking, if they're not ready to accept that in their hearts, why even try? Like, you need to warm up to them. You're not just gonna walk up to a stranger on the street. I mean, you might get lucky, but and be like, hey, believe in God, try it out, and they might be like, oh yeah, sure. But like,
Who said that? Who was that? Not me.
Hey, Andrew, remember that time we were downtown and we were walking down?
Yeah.
what happened?
There were these people in the corner, and this guy tried to hand me a card or something. And I was like, dude, I'm not taking a card from you right now. It's like COVID. And they were like, God is great, like, blah, blah, blah. And then they like turned to Andrea and he's like, well, do you have the assurance that you're going to go to heaven after you die? And she goes, yes.
Literally, I said yes. And he goes, he like said something else. And then like we like kept walking and he was like,
yeah.
well, how do you know? Like, do you believe in Jesus? And I'm like, amen, sister, I'm going to heaven. And he was like, what? And I was like, I'm not taking a pamphlet from you right now. And also, I mean, it's good that you're trying to spread the word, but you're literally just shoving it down our throats. Like, what if I was in like, I would find that mildly, extremely aggressive.
Yeah. It was wild.
Proof that it's too aggressive. But maybe if he had like stopped and had a conversation with you, maybe you wouldn't have been like, amen, sister. Maybe you would have explained it a little bit better on the reasoning why you're going to heaven. All right, so I mean, that was like the end of the parable, and so I had a couple of discussion questions, and then we'll wrap it up. I know you guys got things to do. So the first one is, why do you think Jesus talks in parables so much?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest here. Humans are not the brightest people.
Who?
Humans.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
In general, we're
Yeah.
not smart. There are smart people, but we're not smart. For example, Adam and Eve, they had one task of what not to do. And I feel like the easier it is that he can lay it out and explain, like, okay, if you have good soil but not deep roots, the plant's gonna weather up. If it's near thorns, it's gonna die. But if you have good soil, those plants are gonna produce more crops. Like, logically thinking, you can understand that with the seed. And so I feel like the easiest way that he can lay it out for people to understand, then the more people will be willing to, not willing, but like the more people will be able to follow, if that makes sense. Just because I'm not saying that mankind is stupid, we're just not all that intelligent all the time. So any easy hints and tips that we can take, I feel like that's why he lays it out. Like, the 10 Commandments, here are the 10 Commandments, follow these. Or like speaking in parables. And now I'm ranting, but anyways.
No, that's
Yeah, I
exactly it.
completely agree. I think whenever like you explain something to someone, even if it's like teaching swimming or something that's rudimentary in theory, but like the person you're explaining it to is not familiar with it, I think like using a simple story or using something like that they'll be able to absorb better or more efficiently is, I guess, the best way to go about it. So I think it's written that way just to make it a little bit more straightforward. And if like after laying that surface level, it's just easier to delve deeper, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah. I have another question that we can ask. So, and that's exactly it. I mean, I just wanted to bring that to our attention because I think that in the Bible, some people are so intimidated about reading it, and I definitely was before I started reading it. But it's really pretty straightforward. You just need to take the time to read it. So, and then breaking it up into chunks is always better. Don't just take it Genesis
Yeah,
all
that's a big swallow.
yeah. So another question I had was, how can we as Christians approach those with hardened hearts? I know I've struggled with it. I know we've talked about it before. It's hard to talk. Like we have a friend at home that's like hard to talk about religion with. Like she doesn't really believe in it. Like how can we approach those people without like scaring them away? Is what I'm asking.
Yes, Andrea.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, I think the first step, and this like enables, I guess, the window to open in a sense, is like accepting that their beliefs and accepting like to each their own. It's like I respect that you have those beliefs and those opinions, and I mean everyone's entitled to just what they believe, which is completely fine. And I think letting them know that this is just a conversation, this is just me sharing my beliefs, and it's up to you. I'm not impeding. I'm not, like you guys said, you don't want to be aggressively forward with it. Just starting very casually, and then leaving like the rest to them, almost like letting them make the decision, taking what you've provided, and then going a little bit deeper. Because I think if you start in a forward aggressive sense, they're just going to close that window before you even get to tell them what you wanted to say. So just, I think, laying down I completely am fine with what you believe. This is just what I believe. What do you like? What's your take?
I love that. Because I feel like a lot of the times you don't really know where to start. So just literally opening up the conversation, just being like, what do you believe? That's really helpful. That's good advice.
Thank you. I haven't really used it much yet, but I feel like in a sense that I would try my best to. And always, like, when you're in the situation, things obviously will go differently than ever
Right.
planned, but ideally that would be the way it would go.
Well, and I feel like, I mean, it's the same, not to connect to like political topics, but when I'm having a conversation with someone who doesn't agree with me politically, it's easier just to, for me at least, to listen and be like, okay, you tell me what you believe, and I want to hear what your side is and understand what you're thinking and what you're believing. And then I want you to stop and listen to what I have to say. And usually those conversations go better than I expect. So that's definitely a technique to try. That's great advice. That's really good.
Oh, sorry. Are you still going?
No, you're good.
Okay. I would say I agree. I think it's important to be like, yeah, respect is like one of the biggest things, I think, and being like from the get-go, even just like saying like I respect, yeah, your opinions, and I'm not trying to change them. I'm just trying to like tell you what I think, kind of, because I feel like a lot of the times too, people sometimes get upset because they really do think you're like trying to like convert them or like trying to change their opinions, and I think that's like important to be like, I'm not trying to like change that. I just like want to hear where you're coming from and like tell you where I'm coming from in a sense. And I think, yeah, listening is so important. And like, I think too, like if you want to talk about like in that conversation when you're talking about your beliefs, like making sure that you, yeah, still like are listening when they're talking about it too, like their beliefs, because I think a lot of it too is like, if you don't try to like take the time to like hear someone else's side or like where they're coming from, it like is perceived as like, oh, you don't care, or like condescending in a sense. Like I think of this too, yeah, not to connect it to political beliefs, but it's very similar, I think, in that sense of being like, oh, like I see where you're coming from, and like, I don't know, just like being respectful and like saying that and not trying to like say like, oh, you're wrong. Like obviously you should never say that. But I don't know, just I think making sure that you're like being like consciously aware of like listening and like letting them know that like you are listening and like you do care about like their beliefs too, and you're not trying to like change them. You're just trying to have a conversation. But yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard in situations. Oh, sorry, Caroline.
No, you go. I was gonna wrap it up. So
It's hard in conversations because I know like one of our friends back at home has had cancer multiple times, and now she's an atheist, and it's hard to have conversations with people like that. I have a kid on my swim team who is gay, which there's nothing wrong with that, but he just is like totally against God and the whole religion thing. And it's kind of hard to like have conversations with them about that because they're like, well, God gave me cancer, or God did this bad thing in my life. And when people have situations like that, or like my mom died, that's horrible, I wish that upon no one. Like when terrible life events happen, it's hard. Like, oh yeah, well, God has a plan for you in those situations, or like, because I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what, those are the situations where I get kind of held up and like don't know what to say, because I'm like, you're right, that did happen, your mom died, or someone got cancer, or you got cancer, or whatever it is. I never know like what to say because I'm so afraid of being like, well, God was actually like calling your mom back up to heaven, and like now she's your guardian angel and she's gonna watch over you, or like you got cancer because the world is a horrible place and there's bad people, and cancer is cancer and it sucks, and God didn't give you cancer, like you, like it just happened. Like what do you say in those? Those are the situations that I never know what to do. If anyone has advice on that, I'd appreciate it because I don't know what to say.
I think that's such a hard. Go, Carol. No, I've spoke. You speak.
I speak enough on this. You guys are sick of after talking.
No, mine was really quick. I just think like when you're in a situation where you can't relate, there's no way you can even imagine what they're going through. That just builds a barrier of connecting and of sharing your experience, because immediately they're going to assume like you've never been been through what I've been through. How are you to tell me that everything's like there's a plan for everything that's happening? There's just no explanation for that. So I 100% agree with you in not knowing how to go about like a situation that's so unexplainable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna touch on that a little because like I think I have talked to our friend from home that has had cancer about this, and like I like immediately, because I know I'm very lucky, like I was in the hospital like and they told me I was probably gonna have cancer. Luckily, thank God, that it was like my tumor was benign and everything, but like I sort of connected with her like on that level, but I like kept emphasizing that I was like, I have no idea what you're going through. Like, yeah. I think it's so important because oftentimes I catch myself being like, oh, I can like relate. Like I've been in her shoes, and like I was in her shoes for a week of my life. That's it. She's like, it's a constant thing she's living with. I cannot relate to that at all. And I think that people in her shoes like get offended when other people come up and they're like, I totally get what you're going through. Like my cousin has cancer and like Jesus healed her. I think that they hate those Christians because those Christians are phrasing things in the wrong way. You need to come at it as, I have no idea what you're going through. I'm just going to tell you my experience, and you take that what you will. I am open to having conversations. I'm open to hearing what you're going through, and just preface that, because if you immediately are like, oh, sis, I totally get what you're going through. Like, right. God saved me. And then like me acting all high and mighty because I didn't get cancer. I think that immediately shuts them off. That immediately makes them not want to listen to you. That does not open up their heart to God. So it's like an easy, you gotta ease into it a little. And then I obviously can touch on the whole like talking to a gay person about God because I talked to Max about it. And I think that an easy way to immediately get them to listen to you is say, I'm a Christian, but I still love you. I still love gay people. Because I think when people, like Max said, he's like, when I hear like my friends at school that are like, oh, like praise Jesus, like I assume that they're like a part of the church that like hates me, like
Right.
wants me burned at the stake, like that kind of stuff. And so I think you immediately need to say like, hey, I am an ally, like all that kind of stuff. And just I think it's the like how you approach the situation is key, because first impressions are everything. That's my rant.
That was great advice.
Yeah,
I mean,
I like
so
that.
if someone's parent dies, or like, thank God mine are still alive, and I've never had to deal with cancer or anyone in my immediate family. Like, the closest person I know is Julie Metcalf. Like that, and I will never understand what that is. I hope I never have to experience it. But approaching it like that, I think is, because I never know what to say. I'm like, shit, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think like it's important to being honest and like not trying to like solve the problem in a sense, or like I feel like when people say like, oh, or like, because you don't know what to say to people when they're like, oh, this is like happening to me, and it's like so easy to be like, oh, like everything's gonna be okay, and I'm like, that's like honestly the worst, in my opinion, one of the worst things that you could say. And so not trying to be like, oh my God, like God's gonna like solve all your issues, like just wait kind of thing, like not trying to solve it, but like being honest of like, I don't know like what the purpose of this is, and like I can't understand what you're going through, because I also hate when people are like, oh, I know, like it's so hard, and it's like, I know, and like never say that, like that's so bad. But just like, I don't know, being honest and being like, I really like don't know like what the purpose is, but like I feel like I like to say like, or I feel like I found this like this past year, but like when people are always like, oh, like why do bad things happen to good people, it's like, I don't know, I like did a bunch of research on this because I was like, I don't know how like I would answer this question when people ask me that. But I think like in the Bible, it's like he doesn't promise you that like life isn't going to be hard. He just like promises that he'll be there with you. So it's not like God doesn't say like, I'm going to fix all your problems, because like that just like, we live in a world where like you know, like there's people, and like I think there's free will and like all this stuff. So like there's only, I don't know, people like make their own decisions or whatever. But I think he's not saying like, like nothing bad is ever going to happen to you, and like it's just saying like, I am going to be there with you when it does happen, and like he feels like our pain too. And I think it's so easy to be like, oh, why would you do this to me? But it's like, you got to think about like God is like experiencing it with us, you know, like he feels our pain too, and like our joys. So that's how I think about it.
That was
But
so
that's hard to convey to someone, but yeah. Thank you. That's my soapbox.
Sorry, I was muted. That was amazing, Sophie. Wow. This is why I love this, because I get pieces of advice that I never would have gotten before.
Always walk away with something.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard because this is like, okay, Wes like asks me this question all the time about religion, and this is why I'm like, I don't know, but I feel like I've tried to figure it out. But like, because he's like, how can you believe in like religion when, or like God, when like there's it, like it also stems so much hate. But I think it's important to like say like Jesus and God and like religion is separate than like, I like to separate that from like the practices. And it's like people sometimes practicing religion, like, I don't know, they do it in a way of like, oh, like I'm right, you're wrong. And so I think you can still believe in God and like all this stuff, and not like necessarily like believe in like the practices that people do. And like, because I find it sometimes, I like find it so hard with like, I don't know, just sometimes like the history of the church, and like it's like, oh, like I believe in God and stuff, but I don't want people to think like, oh, then like I don't like love gay people and I don't like support any of these things just because I'm like religious, which I think sometimes is like some people who are very against it, like their first opinions. But I think it's important to like separate that, like, I don't know, like, like everyone, just because you believe in God doesn't mean you like believe in like everything the church stands for. And like, I think sometimes people like misinterpret that, and just saying like, I don't know why, like, all those things happen, but like, I don't know, I just find comfort in like believing in God. And I don't know, that's what I would tell people, is just like being honest about like that, I guess. I don't know. Okay, I'm done now.
Emphasize the whole, this is just me, I'm not forcing this on you. That's exactly it. I just had like one more question. What are some ways that we can tend to the soil in our hearts? I came up with a list of questions. We talked about it this last week. I know Sophie was here last week. about like different ways to pray, and what did she say?
She was here too.
You were
But
oh yeah,
I was
I know you're here too. I know
here.
all the weeks blur together.
Anyways,
All
continue.
right.
I tried praying in the shower and I really liked it,
I'm glad you took the challenge.
but just ignore me. I'm fine. Just kidding.
You know, let's just end this. This is bad.
No, I'm kidding. Keep going. Keep going. I'm getting myself again.
Oh my god.
My question is just like, what are some different ways, like besides prayer? Because I know that's an easy one to like keep that fire alive inside of us. Because I sometimes struggle with that. Like I said, with the New Year's resolution, I have a bunch of different goals, and I just sort of let them fizzle out. And like, you can even talk about ways that you like keep up that habit of like, oh, like I want to work out every day. Like I have my little reminders, and I think that we can apply them to our relationship with God, our friendship with God. If you guys don't have any ideas, I can share mine, but
For me, I think it's groups like this. Am I muted? No, I'm good.
very good.
I've been doing that a lot. Like groups like this, and other ones at Holy Cross that just allow you the time to consciously be in the moment of talking about it and thinking about it. Because I know like independent prayer and times like of, I guess, reflection where you're doing it by yourself, but it's always nice to have like a community doing it with you. And while I mentioned reflection, I think that's another way for me to just conscious time to just reflecting on your day or on your week or on a certain situation, and then I guess coming to concrete explanations or something, answering questions that you were seeking answers to. So for me, I think it's like communities like this and reflection.
Totally.
I like that. I agree. Like, I don't know, just talking to people. I feel like I make it a goal where, like, to talk to one person a week, which I guess isn't like a huge goal, but anyways, just like some God-related conversation, you know? Like, even if it's like outside of this, I guess. Because sometimes I feel like at school, I get kind of busy and then I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna go to like my CLC or whatever because I'm like, I'm too tired or something. But I'm like, I missed out on so many good conversations. But just like talking to like someone else about it, I don't know. I really like hearing other people's like perspectives and stuff because I feel like that helps a lot. And then I don't know, I feel like, yeah, I listen to worship music a lot. That's my jam. And then I would say like, I don't know, like, I don't know how to phrase this and I just lost my train of thought. But I was gonna say, oh, like looking up, I don't know, sometimes I just like get random questions in my head where I'm like, oh, that's an interesting question. And so then I like look it up and do research and stuff. So I guess that would be my other thing. But I wouldn't say that's like a daily or like a weekly thing, just whenever it happens, it happens. But yeah.
Let's see. I could just hear my echo in someone's computer. That was really funny. I feel like for me, something that's helped is like, well, Bible studies and things like this. But it's really easy at school because, so like church is on Sunday and I'll go to church, and then like Monday is Bible study. So then it's easy to do like 2 days in a row. I'm like, woo, 2 days in my week, like Jesus, yes. But then the rest, 5 days, I'm not doing anything. And so having this like halfway through my week or dedicating like Wednesdays, which is kind of what I started changing to doing, was like Wednesdays, which is like kind of the middle of the week until we did this Bible study. Thank you, Carol. Just like something halfway through my week. So like I start off my week Sunday before I go to school. I'm like a good note. And then I try and carry that through. And like, if I don't do anything the other days, like, okay, I know Wednesday, like I'm really going to try and hit it good for the rest of the week. And that sounds inappropriate. Like, I didn't like that I said that. Like,
Safe space.
and I did say that. Come into Wednesdays and be like, all right, I'm going to recenter myself for the rest of, I just like ruined what I was going to say. Anyway, something middle of the week. I'm going to stop talking. That was so nasty. I don't know why I said that.
No, it's fine.
I hope the people I'm recording laughed. But anyways, I like all of your ideas though. They're all great. Wonderful. Worship music. Woo. Woo.
I mean, y'all pretty much said them. I mean, the whole reason why I like started this group was to keep myself, because I catch myself, I don't hold myself accountable at all. I'm like, when I set a goal, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do it. Like, I'll do it for like a solid like 2 months and then I'll fall out of my habit. But when I have others to like keep me honest, to keep me on track, it keeps me like going. Like having this group, like I'll have like a down week and then I'll be like preparing, like sometimes I'll like hang out with like Andrew or Sophie like here at home and I'll be like, oh, like I honestly don't know what this week's topic is, like I have no motivation to do it, but then we have a conversation about God and that sort of gets me like fired up again. And I think it's all about like the conversations, and I think that has just been like keeping me honest. And then having to prep for this group, I watch a ton of videos. I found a weird seed video that I was gonna show you guys. It's like a weird, you can watch it, but like it's 2 minutes. It's basically just shows all the different seed scenarios in a cartoon version. But like I learned so much from these videos, and it's just like it's a vicious cycle. I just like click next video, and I just like watch all these like preachers, but like this is almost like a homework to me, and but like in the best way possible. And it keeps me like going, keeps that soil in my heart cultivated. I'm gonna keep using the soil even though it's annoying. But yeah, I mean, did you guys want to see the animation video? It's sort of funny.
Sure.
Okay, why not? It's a little weird, I told you. The weeds. Yeah, that's the video. See, I warned you it was weird.
I
It gets the job done.
That was weird.
Okay, I won't show any weird videos from now on.
Oh, I loved it. It was just different.
It was interesting. It definitely was.
Interesting is a good word. But I feel like if you didn't know the story like behind it, you'd be like, what is this?
True.
But it reminded me of like videos we used to watch in like CCD of like we'd like watch like they'd like dumb it down for us and we'd be like, ooh, that's God's work.
Reminds me of VeggieTales.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
Watched a couple of those. The week that we talked about the Battle of Jericho, I watched the video on VeggieTales just to make sure I was telling it right because I didn't want to mess it up.
That's hilarious.
Anyways, I know people have stuff to do, so I'm going to end with the challenge for this week. So I want you to get a piece of paper, and I want you, this connects back to the song at the beginning, so it's full circle.
Oh, yes.
Sophie loves the song. Okay, I gotta keep up with the song idea because Sophie always loves the songs I send out. So, and then people who don't come either, I always get texts being like, "I sorry I couldn't come, but like I listened to that song in the shower." I was like, "Great, that's all we need." Yeah, and so I want you to get a piece of paper and I want you to write down all of your insecurities. I want you, before you do anything with that, I want you to pray about them. I know it's gonna be hard to like look at them, but I think we need to face them. I sometimes don't want to look at my insecurities because I have a lot of them and I sometimes take them out on people, which I need to stop doing, which I'm going to do this challenge as soon as I'm done. Here, I have all my paper all set. I have it right here. And I want you to either crumple it up, like whatever works for you. You can crumple it up, throw it away. You can shred it. You can do whatever you want. You can burn it. Burn it. We're big fans of burning things in my house. My mom did when we got my CAT scan from my like tumor. After like I was all clear, she's like we're having a bonfire. After I had my MRI results when I tore my ACL, we burned that sucker. So I think we should do
That's
this.
awesome.
We can burn it on my birthday next week at my s'more party.
Emma, we can
Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
How old are you turning?
20.
Ooh, that's big. That's awesome.
I'm a child.
I hope you guys have so much fun.
Thank you. We will have a bonfire burning session.
Oh, yeah.
Burn mine.
Oh, yes.
My imaginary list that I'll
Spirit, and
send
I
you
will burn it for you.
Okay, I'm gonna stop recording. So Andrea, do you want to give your shout out again for the people?
Oh, yes. My last name, I'm just kidding. It's spelled Niemann. Andrea Dawn Neiman. If you follow me, I'll follow you back. I'm going to go follow you right now, but.
Yes.
Hugs to all those people who are watching. Till next week.
Oh my God.
Bye, guys.
Okay.